The man standing in the polished lobby looked completely out of place. His worn denim jacket carried the dust of years of hard work, one hand tightly held the fingers of a little girl with bright curious eyes, and the other clutched a faded envelope that had survived countless rainy days. Around him, executives hurried past without slowing down, convinced he had wandered into the wrong building. Security was already preparing to escort him outside when the young CEO stepped from the elevator, noticed the old envelope, read the name written across it, and suddenly froze. The debt her late father had hidden from the entire world had finally arrived at her door, but the stranger who had come to collect it was about to receive an offer that would change both of their lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can heal broken hearts, forgiveness can rewrite the past, and second chances can create beautiful futures, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Every act of support helps our community continue sharing stories that remind us humanity is still alive. Garrett Holloway had never imagined himself entering a building where the marble floors reflected every ceiling light like mirrors. He spent most of his days repairing farm equipment in a small rural town several hours away, raising his 8-year-old daughter, Nora, after losing his wife to a sudden illness 4 years earlier. Life had taught him how quickly happiness could disappear, but it had also taught him that dignity was something nobody could take unless he willingly surrendered it. He worked long hours, cooked every meal, helped with homework, braided his daughter's hair badly every school morning, and smiled through exhaustion because she deserved a father who never gave up. The envelope he carried belonged to his own father, Malcolm Holloway, who had passed away only weeks before. While sorting through old belongings, Garrett had discovered journals, receipts, and one carefully preserved handwritten agreement signed nearly 3 decades earlier. According to those papers, Malcolm had loaned a struggling entrepreneur enough money to keep a tiny manufacturing business alive during its darkest season. The entrepreneur had promised repayment whenever the company became successful. No lawyers had ever become involved. There had been only trust, respect, and 2 signatures. The entrepreneur had been Arthur Whitmore. Arthur had gone on to build one of the country's largest engineering companies before unexpectedly dying several years earlier. His daughter, Celeste Whitmore, had inherited leadership while still in her early 30s. Business magazines admired her intelligence and determination but often described her as emotionally distant. Few people knew she had spent years trying to protect thousands of employees while quietly grieving a father whose absence never stopped hurting. Garrett hadn't traveled to demand millions of dollars. His father had written one final note folded inside the agreement. It explained that if Arthur or his family were struggling, they should forget the debt entirely. If they were successful, Garrett should simply ask for what was fair and use the money to secure Nora's future. Malcolm believed promises mattered, but compassion mattered even more. Celeste invited Garrett into her office after reading the agreement. Every executive expected lawyers to flood the room within minutes. Instead, she carefully opened a small wooden box that had remained untouched since her father's funeral. Inside rested Arthur's personal diary. As she slowly turned the pages, tears filled her eyes. There, in unmistakable handwriting, Arthur had written about the darkest week of his life when banks rejected every request for help. One entry described Malcolm Holloway as the honest mechanic who believed in him when nobody else would. Arthur confessed he had intended to repay every cent many times over but became consumed by endless expansion, promising himself there would always be another opportunity. That opportunity never came. Celeste closed the diary and looked toward Garrett with a sadness that words could never fully describe. She realized her father had carried the weight of that unpaid promise until his final days. Her finance department quickly calculated what the original investment would equal after decades of reasonable interest. The amount exceeded $6 million. Everyone expected Garrett to celebrate. Instead, he quietly lowered his eyes. The number felt impossible. He had spent years wondering how to afford Nora's school supplies without sacrificing groceries. $6 million sounded less like reality and more like something belonging to another universe. Before anyone could prepare legal documents, Celeste surprised every person inside the room. She explained that she intended to honor the debt completely. Then she made a second proposal no one expected. She offered Garrett a permanent position as Director of Community Restoration, leading programs that repaired schools, playgrounds, shelters, and struggling neighborhoods using company resources. She admitted her corporation had become profitable but had slowly drifted away from the compassion her father once valued. Reading Malcolm's story reminded her what the company had originally been built upon. Garrett was speechless that he had no corporate experience, that he had never managed executives, that he knew engines, broken machinery, leaking roofs, and exhausted families who simply needed someone willing to help. Celeste smiled for what seemed like the first genuine time in years, because that was exactly why she wanted him. Over the following weeks, Garrett's life transformed in ways he never expected. He continued wearing practical clothes, that he still drove his aging pickup truck, that he still packed homemade lunches. The only difference was that every morning he walked into a company that slowly began remembering compassion. Instead of expensive promotional events, Garrett suggested restoring playgrounds where children had nowhere safe to laugh. Instead of luxury executive retreats, he proposed repairing veterans' homes, community libraries, and family shelters damaged by neglect. Employees volunteered in record numbers. Many admitted they had joined the company years earlier hoping to make a difference but had gradually forgotten why they first chose their careers. Meanwhile, Nora became an unexpected source of inspiration. She spent weekends handing out sandwiches beside volunteers, writing cheerful thank you notes to workers, and planting flowers outside renovated buildings. Her kindness reminded adults that generosity did not depend upon age or wealth. Celeste found herself visiting these projects almost every afternoon. Away from boardrooms and financial reports, she discovered conversations she had been missing her entire life. She listened to elderly widows describe receiving repaired heating systems before winter. She watched children race across newly rebuilt playgrounds. She saw exhausted parents cry with relief after volunteers restored unsafe homes. Every smile reminded her of the values her father once treasured before ambition slowly consumed his attention. Yet not everyone appreciated the company's transformation. Several board members argued that Garrett's program spent too much money without generating immediate profits. They questioned why someone without a business degree held such influence. Anonymous articles criticized the corporation for becoming sentimental instead of competitive. Celeste faced enormous pressure to remove Garrett. For several difficult weeks, investors demanded meetings almost daily. Some threatened to sell shares, others warned the company's reputation would suffer. Garrett quietly offered his resignation, that he believed the conflict wasn't worth risking thousands of employees' livelihoods. Celeste refused. She remembered her father's diary, she remembered Malcolm's faith, she remembered the promise hidden for 30 years. Walking away from compassion now would betray everything both fathers had believed. Instead of surrendering, Celeste requested a comprehensive report measuring every community project. The results surprised everyone. Employee satisfaction had reached its highest level in company history. Staff turnover had fallen dramatically. Applications from talented graduates nearly doubled. Customers increasingly supported the company because they trusted its values. Communities once ignored now proudly recommended its services. Doing good had quietly become good business. The critics gradually lost their voices. Months passed. Garrett purchased a modest home instead of a mansion. He established an education fund for Nora. He anonymously paid off medical debts for several families from his hometown because he never forgot what financial fear felt like. He insisted nobody reveal where the money came from. He believed kindness deserved no applause. One sunny afternoon, nearly a year after arriving with nothing more than an old envelope, Garrett returned to the same lobby where security had almost escorted him away. This time dozens of employees greeted him warmly. Some waved, others thanked him for reminding them why their work mattered. Near the entrance stood a bronze plaque recently installed beside photographs of restored schools and neighborhoods. The inscription did not celebrate profits or famous executives. Instead, it honored two ordinary fathers whose quiet integrity had changed countless lives. It explained that one man had trusted another during impossible times, while the other's son returned years later not with anger, but with honesty. Their example inspired a company to rediscover its heart. Celeste stood nearby watching visitors read the plaque. She realized the greatest inheritance her father had left wasn't his corporation. It was the opportunity to finally fulfill a promise he never had the chance to keep. Garrett looked at Nora laughing with employees beneath the warm afternoon sunshine. She had grown more confident, more hopeful, and less afraid of the future. For the first time since losing his wife, He no longer carried the crushing loneliness of believing every burden belonged only to him, that he understood something his father had always tried to teach: real wealth was never measured by bank accounts. It was measured by promises kept, compassion shared, and lives quietly lifted when no one expected help. The old envelope that once represented unpaid debt had become something far greater. It became proof that even forgotten acts of kindness can echo across generations, returning when they are needed most. Before we finish, we'd love to hear from you. What do you think was the greatest lesson in this story? Was it Malcolm's faith, Garrett's humility, Celeste's courage to honor the past, or the belief that kindness always finds its way back? Leave your meaningful comment below and let our community know what touched your heart the most. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind you that every act of kindness, no matter how small or how forgotten it seems, has the power to change lives long after we are gone, because the greatest debts are never paid with money alone. They are repaid with compassion, integrity, forgiveness, and love that continues from one generation to the next.